And I asked them, who guaranteed the man they're going to guarantee me? How long will a fool hate knowledge? Never equate knowledge with intelligence. Let us get excited about our lives. The only thing that keeps me moving with my people, knowing that God is a just God. I got a mission. I want to make a contribution to this world. Spend more time helping people than I do running a business. But God will keep his word.
Mr. Johnny, we're going to start today by introducing you, Mr. Johnny Robinson. Mr. Johnny, we'd like for you to begin by just giving us some background as to your personal background, where you were born, some of your family info, and then if you would follow that up by how you were introduced to Mr. Dudley and the Dudley Company.
Okay, this is going to be quite an interesting thing for me today. I started out with Dudley Products while I was a student at A&T. I think in my sophomore year, and I needed to make a few extra dollars to go along with what I was getting from the VA. And someone told me about a man named Joe Dudley. He had a business that you could go and sell some products and make a few extra dollars. So I went down to the office, met Mr. Dudley and the sales force, and I joined them to sell Dudley products part-time. Well, between classes and things of that nature, I figured out that I could go out and make enough money to supplement my income until I got my VA check. And every time I had a break between classes, if I was up on my classwork, I ran out to sell some products. And it got, the little boy said, it got good to me. I found myself having some money in my pocket all the time because I would sell every day. I had a certain area that I would go into, and then I started going to the meetings. And as I began to go to the meetings, I learned that there's a way to do it. You just didn't do it off the cuff. There's a right way to sell door to door. And Mr. Dudley began to teach how to sell, how to go to the people's home, how to talk to the people, how to take certain products on a certain day to certain people and things of that nature. And I found myself every day that I had a break between classes, I was at someone's house, someone's door, knocking on the door and talking to them about Dudley products and about the products that I carry. So I kept doing that until I finished A&T. And once I finished A&T, I said, well, I think I have passed door to door long enough now. I have a degree in engineering. I think the thing for me to do is go ahead and work as an engineer somewhere. Well, I ended up in a little town outside of Virginia where I was working as an engineer. And they had a RIF. I don't know if you know what a RIF is, a layoff, a government layoff. And I was caught up in that RIF. And I said, now, what am I going to do? I need a certain amount of money to keep things going. And several other guys was caught up in the rift. And something told me to call Mr. Dudley. I gave Mr. Dudley a call, and I told him what had happened. I got caught off. I got laid off, and several other guys was laid off. And he said, well, what you need is some products. And I thought about that for a little while, and I started talking to the guys that got laid off. I said, I'm going to get some products, and I'm going to show you guys how to sell and make some money. While the government is on their vacation, we're going to make some money. And it worked out real good until the government called those guys back to work. And they didn't call me, but they called them back to work. And they forgot about Dudley products and selling door to door and went on back to the government. So I had a chance to talk to Mr. Dudley again, and he says, well, you need to continue to sell, and we'll open a branch in Richmond, Virginia. Because I was in Fredericksburg, and the branch in Richmond was closing because the people that was running it was leaving the town. So I moved from Fredericksburg, my family and I, to Richmond, and I started running the branch there and continued to sell. And it wasn't so long after that I got a chance to meet Mr. S.B. Fuller at a meeting that he was having, and we talked, and Mr. Fuller said, Johnny, you need to come to Chicago. I think Mr. Dudley and Mr. Fuller had been talking behind my back a little bit. so when Mr. Fuller suggested that I come to Chicago, I said, wow, okay. I talked to my family, and we said we made arrangements. We're going to Chicago. Well, we went to Chicago, and I started selling in Chicago. Well, things worked out where I was doing fairly well in Chicago, and Mr. Dudley eventually moved to Chicago, and he took over the plant and everything. He wanted me to work in the manufacturing plant there in Chicago. I had a degree in engineering, so they need an engineer in the plant to do some engineering ideas and things of that nature. So I thought it was just great. And I worked with them in the plant and went out selling on the side. And things went well. Things went very, very well until we got ready to move back to Greensboro from Chicago. And at that time, he wanted me to become the plant manager in the Greensboro area. So I moved back to Greensboro, my family and I became the plant manager because I was working in Chicago with the plant manager and working in the plant and making sure that things ran smoothly. So I took over the plant manager's position in Greensboro, and I still go out and sell part-time. Things went well. Things went very good. And we built a new plant and everything in Greensboro. And I stayed in Greensboro as the plant manager and worked in the new plant and things of that nature. With Mr. Dudley, Mrs. Dudley, and the entire Dudley team. Until one day I said, I've been in the plant long enough, it's time for me to get out and build a business for myself. Mm-hmm. So I had a talk with Mr. Dudley, and he suggested that I come into, well, we started in Charlotte area because we built a team of salesmen in the Charlotte area with my sister, Betty Clarkson. And I started in that area. Eventually, I ended up in Fayetteville. And I've been in Fayetteville ever since. I've done a little bit of everything in the Fayetteville area with Dudley. And I worked with the radio station. I worked with the TV station, different things. along with Dudley, and I made a name for Dudley in this area. That's basically what has happened to me over the years with Dudley Products. I'll always be grateful to Dr. Joe Dudley for taking the time to work with me and teach me the things that he has taught me. So many things, how he has shared with me the things that he was going through, the things that he was doing, and how direct sales, door-to-door sales, meeting a man like S.B. Fuller. Oh my goodness, what happened with Mr. Fuller? I'll never be able to overlive or understand everything that I went through with Mr. Fuller, but I can understand Mr. Dudley being the man that he is because of how he followed the instruction and direction of Mr. S.B. Fuller. That's where he is today because of Mr. Fuller. Any questions?
Yes, sir. I have a couple of more things that I'd like to ask you. Well, I've heard that you have quite a few interesting stories, and we did have one request for a story that you had told before that related to one of our presidents of the United States. You recall that story?
Yes, I recall that story.
Could you share that with us?
I don't mind sharing it with you. I was sitting in Mr. Fuller's office one morning. He and I was talking about different things and his experiences through the years that he had worked his way up in Fuller Products. And the sales reps had moved. Mr. Dudley had sent me to Chicago to get to know Mr. Fuller, get around Mr. Fuller, to learn some of the things that Mr. Fuller would always teaching people. And I was eager. I was eager to learn. And the doorbell rang, and somebody opened the door, and in walked a guy, and he walked through, and he looked around. He says, "Is Mr. Fuller here?" And they said, "Yes, Mr. Fuller's in his office." And Mr. Fuller said, "Johnny, that's one of the president's men." I said, "One of the president's men?" He said, "Yeah, that's one of the guards of the president. The president is coming by to visit us." I said, "What president?" He said, "The president of the United States." And the amazing part, he came in, he looked around and spoke to we was up in Mr. Fuller's office. And he said, "Mr. Fuller, how are you doing?" He said, "I'm fine." He says, "Is everything fine?" He said, "Everything is fine." He said, "I'll be right back." He said, all right. And he went out in a few minutes. Wasn't but a few minutes, and the door buzzed again, and in walked another guard, and between he and the guard that was there first was the president of the United States. I said,
Yeah.
I said, "Do you want me to leave?" He said, "Oh, no, you stay right where you are. You stay where you are." And he walked up to the door, and he says, "Hello, SB." And he said, "Well, hello there, Dick." I said, "Dick?" I said, "That's President Nixon." And he called him SB, and he called him Dick. I said, "Oh, my goodness." I said, "What is this?" So he walked in. He said, "Who is this young man?" He said, "Oh, this is one of the new people that have moved here from Greensboro. He's in training and learning what he can about Fuller Products and how to be self-motivated." Mm-hmm. He said, "This is Johnny Robinson." I said, "How you doing, Mr. President?" He said, "I'm fine, Mr. Robinson." He said, and they began to talk. They're talking about worldly events with me sitting there. And I said, would you have like for me to go out? I said, "Oh, no, you need to know about this stuff."
I know that was an exciting experience.
Oh my goodness! I never experienced anything like that in my life. Not before, nor after, on that one-to-one basis. And I got a chance to talk to Mr. Fuller and talk to the President of the United States. And I said, these guys they're just regular. They're regular. They're not high-polluting type people. They're just regular people. And that's what I got out of that incident. But after that, I got a chance to meet a lot of people that knew Mr. Fuller, and I met a lot of people that have known Mr. Dudley. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I have had with Mr. Dudley because of the chance I had with Mr. Fuller as well. I would have never experienced some of the things that I had if it had not been for Mr. Dudley.
Okay. All right, then. That was an interesting story. Very unexpected. So let's see if you could, I think you might have kind of touched on it here and there, but if you could you pull together what impact did your relationship with Mr. Dudley and the Dudley Company have on your life?
Oh my goodness. This could take a week. First time is that. Okay, I had never considered sales. I wanted to be an engineer, and Mr. Dudley thought it was a great idea to become an engineer. Say, but an engineer needs to know how to sell. And to sell, you have to sell yourself, not your product. You sell yourself. If people buy you, they'll buy any product that you have. And I learned that by working with Mr. Dudley in sales. And I was the first person to sell over $10,000 in a week with Dudley. But we had people in other companies, other branches that were selling $1,000. So I made up my mind, if they can do it, I can do it. And I told Mr. Dudley, I said, I'll do $1,000. And he set it up right away that he wanted us to do $1,000 in a week's time in sales. And there were several of us that we were going to do it. I was the first one to do $1,000 in Dudley. And because of that, so many others did $1,000 afterwards. We found out that if we find someone that's doing something and you observe them close enough, you can do the same thing and probably do a better job than what they are doing themselves. Because you have all of your understanding as well as what you're learning from them to put it together and make it happen. But that was a great experience with me.
Okay, then. Before we close out, is there anything else that has come to mind that you might feel you need to share with us?
Yes, there is. I had recruited that person and brought her in, and she was getting a check, and she was on welfare, and I showed her first week how to make more than $300 take home. And she came and picked her pay up, but she didn't come back to work. And Mr. Fuller says, Johnny, go get my bag. I said, okay, because she's not going to do anything. I said to myself, how you know she's not going to do anything? She did $300. She didn't make no $300. He said, go get it, go get it, go get it. But see, he was speaking from experiences. I was going on emotions. I hadn't experienced that type of sale from a person that was on welfare before. But he had. So I went to get the bag. She was up on the 14th floor of one of those big buildings. And I knocked on the door, and someone came to the door, and I asked if, I don't even remember her name. If she was there, I said, yes, she's here. I said, may I come in? So I walked in. They invited me in. I went in, and I met her mother and her grandmother, and there were some other people in the house. They introduced me to everyone, and I asked her. I said, the young lady, is she home? They said, yes. The mother said, where are you from? You from Fuller? I said, yes, ma'am. But she's not going to sell any of that. I won't say what she said, but I said, well, she started out real good. She's gonna be a good salesperson. And she said, but she have to give up her check. I say, how much does she make on her check? She gets about a little over $300 a month. I said, oh, shucks. She did that her first week. She made that her first week. Mm-hmm. And I say, but that's not guaranteed.
Wow.
That check is guaranteed.
Wow.
I said, is she here? She still hadn't showed herself. She was in the back room. He said, go get her. So she finally came out and she had her head down. She says, I'm not going to be able to do this. My mom says, I can't give up my check. I said, you mean you can't give up $300 a month for $300 a week? And Mom got indignant right then when I made that statement, because she said, you're going to have to get out of here because I know what's best for my daughter. $300 a month is better than maybe something for a week. Maybe something a week. And she said, go in there and get that, what she said, I won't say, but bring it to him so he can take it out of here. And I carried it back. And when I went back, Mr. Fuller said, didn't I tell you that woman wasn't going to do nothing? I said, but Mr. Fuller, he said, no. I've been in this thing too long. And you have to change your pedigree in order to do what we do, because we go out and make something happen. You ain't waiting for somebody to give you something to make it happen. I said, okay. But that thing bothered me for a long, long time. But I finally realized what he was saying, because we get in the habit of someone just giving us. It's hard to go out and make it for yourself. Mm-hmm. And so many of us have gotten caught up in that give me, that we can't go out and make it on our own. I wrote something last week. Are you thinking it's too late to start? And in this particular article, I talk about all the great inventors. All the great inventors, they believed in themselves and what they wanted to do. It was never too late for them to make it happen. Whatever it was they wanted. And one of the people I talked about here was Colonel Holland Sanders and the KFC chicken idea. KFC is still here today because of an idea that a man had many years ago. How many ideas have you had that you let get away?
Mm-hmm.
Was it because you didn't have time for it? You didn't have the money for it? What stopped you from making your idea a reality? Something to think about. There's one other thing that comes to mind, and we fail to take advantage of it so many times. I had an opportunity to visit my sister. She was working with Bell Telephone Company at the time, and I went to Charlotte to visit with her and my family, and we'd have Thanksgiving together and Christmas and different things. And we had the chance to talk, and I was telling her how she should leave that telephone company and start building a business on her own. And I wanted her to come to Greensboro and meet Mr. Dudley and Mrs. Dudley. So she finally came to, well, I set it up with a game that A&T was playing or something, and she came to the game to meet with some of her friends that was going to A&T. And I talked her into going to a meeting with me on a Saturday morning. And that morning she had a chance to meet Mr. Dudley, and several of the salesmen that same day. And she went back to Charlotte and she started selling. And we'd go down once a week and help her build the area for Dudley. And today she runs the largest beauty school in the Chicago area, or one of the largest in the Chicago area. And she started selling door to door in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. We started her there, and she moved on up, and she's been moving up ever since.
Okay, Miss. Yeah, don't tell the story because she's gonna have to tell it.
No, I won't tell the story, but that was one of the things that I saw that I've heard Mr. Dudley and Mr. Fuller both talk about, how you can take a person and change that person's image, and that person can become something that they never knew that they could be.
Yes. Yes.
We don't usually get that type of training. And I saw what my sister did just a week or so ago. She did her graduation. And, you know, you can't do graduation now. She did it on Zoom. And it was just marvelous, just marvelous. I think she has one of the largest beauty schools in the Chicago area now, maybe in Illinois, I'm not sure. But it all started in Charlotte, selling direct to direct, door to door, and building a sales force.
Okay. That's a wonderful interview, Mr. Johnny. You gave us a lot of historic and interesting information. I'm sure that our audience is going to love your interview.
Thank you
so much.